Right. How y'all doing out there? Shalom. This is Brother Kadesh Israel. I'm bringing you another topic, another lesson according to the Holy Scriptures of Yahuwah. And this is going to be entitled, Be Not Deceived. There's a lot of false pastors, prophets, and bishops out there that's contaminating the word of Yahuwah. They're bringing false doctrines, prosperity, such and such, tithing is money, We're going to get into this lesson. We're going to expose these people for who they are using the scriptures. And we're going to show you, I'm going to try to show you what signs to look for, to look out for that false prophet, so you'll know them when you see them or when you hear them. Okay, so we're going to start this off in Genesis chapter 2, verse 9. We're going to read verse 9, then we're going to skip to 16. We're going to read 16 through 18. Then we're going to skip down to 21 and read 21 and 22. So Genesis 2, verse 9. And out of the ground made Yahuwah Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So we see here there's two trees in the midst of the garden, knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. And if you have no understanding, these so-called trees are not literal trees. The tree of life is Yahushua HaMashiach, the Messiah. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil is the anti-Ha-Satan, Satan, the devil. Okay, let's get down to verse 16. And Yahuwah Elohim commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. You may freely eat of every tree of the garden. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Now, he's not talking about literally eating from this tree. What he's saying is listening to this tree. Taking heed to what this tree is saying, or this being. Okay, let's go down. Verse 18. And Yahuwah Elohim said, It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. So like I say here, we like to start everything off in the beginning, because to understand anything, you have to go to the beginning of it. So that's why we always start in the beginning of the book and try to paint a picture, and, we go from there. So now let's go down to Genesis 3. We're going to read Genesis 3. We're going to read verse 1 through 4. Then we're going to skip down to verse 6 and read 6 through 11. Then we're going to skip down and read verse 24. So Genesis 3 and 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahuwah Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Elohim said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest you die. So she knew right off the bat that she was not even to listen to this tree, touch it, or take in anything that this thing was saying to her. Verse 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. So right here we see the first evidence of deception. Deception starts from the beginning of the book and it goes to the end of the book. And that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you from the beginning to the end. There's deception all the way in the middle of this book, in and out. And what to look for, how not to be deceived. Okay, now let's skip down to verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat. So we see here a lot of people say because they use the word eat that, you know, it was talking about an apple. And people today still think that it's an apple that this is talking about. But I'm going to show you later on in these scriptures what this food was that they ate. Very clear. So pay attention. If those that are unlearned, and that's what these videos are really for the unlearned, you know. Not that, you know, we know it all, but, you know, we're supposed to learn every day. But these are really to go out to those that are unlearned, that are stuck in those so-called Christian churches, that, you know, hopefully by the grace of Yahuwah, you know, that he, you know, take the blinds off their eyes and unplug their ears so they can hear this truth. And that's why we do what we do. We are commanded to do this. So hope you get some understanding in this. So we're going to move right along. I just read verse 6. Verse 7. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. And Yahuwah Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? Now we see here that the Most High asked Adam, like, where are you? But we all know that the Most High knew where he was at. Let's get that straight. And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, the Most High said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? So we see here that he said, Who told you thee was naked? So this serpent, now Apple can't talk. So we see that this was somebody that was talking to Adam and his wife. Vain words that they heard came out of this thing's mouth. All the way from the beginning. Okay, so let's move on. Verse 24. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Notice it didn't say to keep the way of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It said to keep the way of the tree of life. So all the way back here, we see this is the Messiah being protected. So let's move on. Let's go to Matthew 7, verse 15 through 20. Matthew 7, 15 through 20. Let's move on here. Matthew 7, verse 15. We're going to read 15 through 20. 7:15. This is the Messiah speaking now. He says, Beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs, or thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down, means cut down, and cast into the fire. What fire is this? We're going to talk about this fire later on. In the end, we're going to see what fire this is. Verse 20. Wherefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. Now, if this saying you'll know your pastor is false by what fruit he has in his basket when you go to the store, no, that's not saying what fruit, no literal fruit. That's what lies come out their mouth. And we're going to show you that in the next verse right here. We're going to show you like what this fruit is. Let's go to Hosea 10, verse 13. Hosea 10, Hosea 10 and 13. I always seem to have a problem finding these little small books. I hope I'm not the only one. Hosea 10 and 13. Just bear with me. Just bear with me. Hosea 10 and verse 13. So we're going to see what kind of fruit this is that the Messiah said be aware of. Hosea 10 and 13. And it reads, Ye have plowed wickedness, ye have reaped iniquity, ye have eaten the fruit of lies, because thou didst trust in thy way, in the multitude of thy mighty men. I'm going to read that one more time so y'all can clearly see what this fruit is. Ye have plowed wickedness, ye have reaped iniquity, ye have eaten the fruit of lies. So we see it all the way back in the beginning. Adam and his wife Eve ate fruit, but it was not an apple. It was the fruit of lies. Now, technically, I can start the lesson right here. I mean, that's clear cut. I ain't got to go on no more. But there's so many scriptures here that touch on this. I'm going to keep going. We have quite a few, around 20 something. But I could stop right here if I wanted to. That's how clear cut the word of Yahuwah is. It cuts to the bone. It cuts. So we're going to move on. 2 Timothy, verse 3. We're going to read 16 to 17. See if I can find this one a little quicker. 2 Timothy 3, and we're going to read 16 to 17. Verse 16. Now we're going to start right here. We're going to get into the words of the Most High, the words of Yahuwah. Okay. 2 Timothy 3:16. Excuse me. All scripture is given by inspiration of the Most High, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. So we see here all scripture. Now what is scripture? Scripture is Genesis to Malachi. That's what the scriptures are. Because when this was written, there was no new so-called testament yet. The only thing they had to read was Genesis to Malachi, the holy prophets, the Torah, instruction, the Hebrew scriptures. I'm going to read it again. All scripture is given by inspiration of Yahuwah, the Most High, and is profitable. Now what's profitable? It means gain. For what? Doctrine? So how many people is teaching the doctrine of this book? Well, if you go to Sunday church, that's a strike right there. That's not, Sunday is not a doctrine of this book. For reproof, that means reread something, prove it, keep proving it over and over. Prove what you can do. You can't prove Sunday in here, but I can prove the Sabbath, the seventh day. I can prove not eating swine. I can prove the Passover, and so on and so on. For correction, which means if I see you and you claim to love the Most High and His Son, and you're not doing according to this scripture, I have the right to correct you with this scripture. And for instructions, which means what to do. Genesis to Deuteronomy, those are the instructions of the book. Some people like to call it the law. That's translated means instructions. So we have all the instructions we need in these scriptures in righteousness. So if you're not doing these things according to this, that means you're unrighteous. You're wicked according to the scriptures. Verse 17, that the man of the Most High may be perfect. So these scriptures make you perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. The brother said the other day, if you have a living room and just has a table in it, it's unfurnished. But this here says thoroughly furnished to all good works. That means these scriptures will thoroughly furnish you. That's sweet. Like I said, I could keep stopping here, but let's move on. Let's go to Isaiah 28. We're going to read verse 10. Isaiah 28, verse 10. I love these scriptures. I love it. I mean, these scriptures cut deep, and it's the truth, and the truth makes you free. I'm so free from the world right now. I love it. I love my brothers and sisters along with me. Isaiah 28:10. Now, a lot of people who go to church on Sunday or who are unlearned, the scriptures actually tell you how to read the scriptures. You're going to see here, Isaiah 28:10. It says, "For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little, there a little." Old Testament, New Testament. Precept must be upon precept to put this thing in order to get the understanding of it. Line upon line. That's why when you have understanding, you see that the so-called New Testament matches perfectly the Old Testament. That's line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. Okay, let's move on. Psalms 119. We're going to read verse 104. Psalms 119, 104. I hope this is making sense to those out there. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, even if I didn't know anything, which I didn't at one time, if this is the Most High's word, I got to go with this. No questions about it. This rules everything. Psalms 119, 104. Moving along. It says, "Through thy precepts I get" what? "Understanding. Therefore I hate every false way." Now what are so-called false ways today? Sunday worship. Now, there's nothing wrong to worship on a Sunday, but he never told us to gather on a Sunday. That's the difference. You can worship on Sunday. You can worship all day long, all 7 days. But he said to come together on the Shabbat, the 7th day of the week. That's holy. That's what he set apart. He did not set apart Sunday. What else is false? Everybody's going to heaven, you know. A lot of things I hear false. You know, people tithing money, that's false. So many false doctrines I hear. I mean, I can eat pork and just pray over it. You know, I mean, I can go on and on. Let's read this one more time. "Through thy precepts," that means through this word, "I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way." Every false way. Let's move on. Let's go to James 1:22. James 1:22. And it reads, "But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own self." So right here it says, don't just hear the word or read it, do it. You have to do it. And if you don't do it and just hear it, you're deceiving your own self. Plain and simple. I mean, these scriptures are so plain. Plain and simple. Let me read that again. "But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own self." Now, what word are we supposed to be doers of? Let's go see it. Let's go to Exodus 20. We're going to read verse 1 through 17. Exodus 20, verse 1 through 17. This here is where you can find the 10 Commandments. Now, we know there in the old so-called Testament, I don't like using that term, but there are 613 laws. All 613 stem or branch out from this 10. This 10 is the royal law. Now, when you read in the so-called New Testament, those that are unlearned, they think that Paul was telling people to do away with the law. But we have to remember there are two sets of laws, people. You have a royal law, which is right here, the 10, and you have an animal sacrifice law that was added 430 years after man. So that's what the Messiah did away with on the cross. You can read Daniel 9:27 to get that precept, where he did away with the sacrifice and the oblations. Okay, let's move on. This is the word that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to follow. This word right here. Exodus 20, we're going to read verse 1 through 17. This is the Ten Commandments. We're going to see who gave it. Did Moses give it or did the Most High give it? Actually, the Most High didn't give it. The Most High gave it to his son. Now HaMashiach, Yahushua HaMashiach, who y'all call Jesus, he's actually the one who gave these laws in the Old Testament. We're going to move on. And Elohim spake all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah, thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So we see here the word Egypt means house of bondage. Verse 3, thou shalt have no other idols before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah, thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. But watch this, verse 6. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and do what? Keep my commandments. Very important. Verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahuwah thy Elohim or Yahuwah thy power in vain. For Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Now verse 8, very important. The first word you see here, very important to understand. Now this is the law that everybody breaks. And once you break this law, you automatically break the 3 on top of it. Because you have 10 commandments. You have the first 4 is how Yahuwah set up, how he wants to be worshipped. Because he created us. So we are to worship how he said worship him. Now the next 6 is how I am supposed to treat you, my fellow man and woman. So we're going to see here, this is now verse 8, this is the 4th commandment. And notice, it's the only commandment that has remember in it. And why does it have remember? I'm going to break this down. It has remember because the Most High knew that we were going to break these commandments. And I'm speaking of the children of Israel. He knew that we were going to break these because he's all-knowing. He knew that Israel was going to break these commandments. And wherever the Most High sent us throughout the 4 corners of the world, he wanted us to remember the day he set apart. Makes sense to me. Verse 8, remember the Sabbath day to keep it Kodesh, holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah thy El, or thy power, not the first day. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it, made holy. He didn't do none of this to the first day. And according to the scriptures, the 7th day is the only day out of the week that the Most High gave a name to. The Sabbath. All the other days are days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just something to think about. Verse 12. Honor thy father and thy mother. This is not talking about Mother's Day and Father's Day. That thy days may be long upon the land which Yahuwah thy power giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. But it should read, thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. But see how even the King James plays with the words here? So if you read this, thou shalt not kill, that's a commandment, then, everybody's guilty of that. A lot of people, but the Most High himself So let's go to some countries and kill everybody. So he's not talking about that. It should be, thou shalt not murder, because there is a time to kill. Read it again, verse 13. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. So I just read you the 10 Commandments. Now let's move on to Matthew 5:17. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Now let's see. I just read you the 10 Commandments. Remember that. Pay attention. So in Matthew 5, we're going to read one verse right here, verse 17. Matthew 5 and 17. Now this is the Messiah talking again. He says, think not, which means don't even put it in your mind. Don't even think about it, what I'm about to tell you. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Now you got the whole Christian church saying, see, he said fulfill. But that don't even make sense. So I'm going to read it how the so-called Christian pastors and the false pastors deceive people with this very verse. Now I'm going to read it how they say it should go. Now you tell me do it make sense. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to destroy. Doesn't even make sense, people. Come on, people, open your ears up. It's clear. I am not come to destroy the law or the prophets. But we're going to come back to this a little bit later on and read the rest of it. Now let's go to 1 John, verse 4. Or like somebody called it I John. We're going to go to 1 John. And I'm going to read one verse here. 1 John 4 and 1. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of Yahuwah, Elohim, the Most High, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. Did it say a few? Did it say many? Now, if there's many false prophets in the world, where would they be at? Would they keep the Sabbath on the right day? Excuse me. Or would they be in a Sunday church? Now, let me clear this up right away. Just because you have a so-called congregation on the 7th day, do not make it the Sabbath. You got 7-day Adventists. You got some other people that so-called come together on the Sabbath, but they don't keep it holy. They still eat pork, and they break the Sabbath. They spend money, do all this wickedness. So they don't keep it holy, even though they keep it on the Saturday or the 7th day. It's still not the Sabbath. It's a big difference. Let me read that one more time. Beloved. This is 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. Beloved. I mean beloved. My beloved. Who is this beloved? Israel. Beloved. Believe not every spirit, but try the spirits. I mean, try them. If somebody say something to you, see does it match this book. If it don't match the book, get it out of here. Believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of the Most High. Because many false prophets are going out in the world. Many. Not one or two or three. Many. Now, let's back up. Let's go to 1 John. Just back up one. And we're going to go to verse 7. 1 John chapter 3, verse 7. Now we're going to get you into this deception stuff. It says, little children, let no man deceive you. He that doeth righteousness is righteous, even as he is righteous. So you see here, it said, don't let no man deceive you. Not even me. If I bring anything to you, and it's not in here, don't listen to me. Or say, brother, show me where that's at. Get some other brothers together. If we can come together, we can, we'll show you this thing. But it says, little children, let no man deceive you. Very important why he's saying this. So we're going to show you this in the end. Let's move on. Matthew 24. We're going to read a couple of verses here. Matthew 24. We're going to pick it up at verse 4 and 5. We're going to skip down to 24. Matthew 24. As soon as I get it. Matthew 24. We're going to read 4 and 5 and skip down to 24. Matthew 24 and 4. And Hamashiach, Yahushua, answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. It's not by accident this is in here these many times. There's so many times here, I couldn't even put it all in here. It says, the Messiah says, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Now what this is saying is that he said, many are going to come. They're going to use my name, say, I'm coming in the name of this, in the name of Christ. I'm coming in the name of Jesus, which are all false names. So how can you come in something that's false and give something that's righteous? It don't add up. We just read you that a righteous tree cannot bear nothing unrighteous. And an unrighteous tree cannot bear anything right. Clear. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. The whole world is being deceived. The whole world, especially by Sunday. We'll get into that later. Skip down to verse 24. It says, for there shall arise false Christ, or false Hamashiachs, and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Let me read that one more time. Somebody might have missed that one. For there shall arise false Hamashiachs. You see a lot of them amongst Israel today. And false prophets. And shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, key word, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And who is the very elect? Israel is the very elect. So how many Israel out there are being deceived? In their own camps, they being so-called camps. A lot of them being deceived right now. But we'll talk about that later on. Moving on. Ephesians 5, verse 6 through 8. Ephesians 5, verse 6 and 8. Here we go again. Let no man deceive you with what? Vain words. That word vain means empty, for not. Empty words. For because of these things cometh the wrath of Elohim upon the children of the disobedient. Let me read that again. Let no man deceive you with vain words. Empty words. Slick words. High profile words that they don't even know the meaning of. For because of these things cometh the wrath of Elohim upon the children of the disobedient. Be not ye therefore partakers with them, for ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Master of the Hamashiach. Walk as children of the light. See, so we're not in darkness anymore, so we don't have to, walk in darkness. We have the light now, and we have to show that light. And that light is keeping these commandments. Don't listen to no vain man. Don't listen to Creflo Dollar, T.D. Jakes, all these so-called, pastors you see on TV now. And a lot of them, you know, Detroit is so full with I'm gonna say it, Detroit is filled with false prophets. You heard that here. I ain't scared. Detroit is filled with false prophets. Moving on, Matthew 24. So I'm going to read one verse here, verse 11. Matthew 24:11. Here we go again. I mean, these words are not in here just to take up the pages. This is the Messiah again speaking. Matthew 24:11. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. It's not by mistake or by accident that these scriptures are like this. Let's go to 2 Peter. I mean, the scriptures, I mean, they back up. They back it up. Moving on. I mean, it's just no fear nowadays, people. No one fears the Most High because no one's getting so-called stoned right away or being, you know, killed on the spot now. They figure they're getting away with stuff. Nah, you're not getting away with nothing. Believe that. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. Now we're going to see here that even amongst Israel, even today amongst Israel, it saddens me that there are still false prophets among us. We're going to see here in the next couple of scriptures. But there were false prophets also among the people. What people are they? The people of Israel. Even as there shall be false teachers among you, I mean among us, who privately shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying Yahuwah that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be even evil spoken of. So like now, you tell people to keep the Sabbath and keep it holy and keep all the feast days, they think it's a sin. They think it's evil talking. Well, we ain't got to do that, you know. I mean, we have the grace now, you know, this and that. As soon as you bring up the law, they think it's evil. And it really bothers me. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Let's move on. Romans 9, 4. Romans chapter 9, verse 4 through 6. Watch this. Among us, there are many false among Israel. It said, who are Israelites? To whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants, plural, covenants, and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim, thy power, and the promises, verse 5, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning the flesh. So this right here kills spiritual Israel. There's no such thing as spiritual Israel. HaMashiach came, who is over all, Elohim blessed forever, so be it. Verse 6, not as though the word of Elohim has taken none effect, for they are not all Israel which are of Israel. Let me read that again. For they are not all Israel which are of Israel. A lot of Israel is falling off. I mean, we fell off from the beginning. But, you know, not all Israel is Israel. I mean, all Israel is not going to keep these laws. You know, Israel is going to be deceived. And be deceived from the get-go. Okay, moving on. Let's go to Titus. Titus chapter 1. Let me Titus. Titus, chapter 1. I'm going to read 3 verses, verse 10 and 11, and we'll skip down to verse 16. Titus 1 and 10. It says, "For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision." Now the circumcision, that's Israel again. Read that again. "For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake." One example right here. I'm going to I'm just going to give one example. Teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake. You got a lot of Israel today under this 501c3 Act. And they teaching their so-called congregation to pay tithes of money for filthy lucre. We know that in the scriptures, tithing even back then was never money. It was always cattle, agriculture, things that came up from the ground, or things that gave seed. And that seed was the word. Just in case some Christians see that say, well, the seed is money. Well, the scriptures say that the seed is the word. Moving on. Skip down to verse 16. "They profess that they know Elohim, but in works they deny him." Read that again. "They profess that they know him, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate." Scriptures cut, people. They cut. And I just hope they cut enough people that, get people to return and repent and come to the true and living Elohim power of Israel. Let's moving on. We're going to go to Acts 13. And we're going to read 2 verses here. Acts 13. We're going to read 6 and 8. It's another incident of a false Israelite. "And when they had gone through the isle unto Paphos, they found a certain sorcerer, a false prophet, a Jew, whose name was Bar-Jesus, which was the deputy or the proconsul of the country, Sergius Paulus, a prudent man, who called for Barnabas and Saul, and described and desired to hear the word of Elohim. But Elymas, the sorcerer, for so his name by interpretation, withstood them, seeking to turn away the deputy from the faith." So we see here that we got even some of Israel turning people away from the faith. And that's still going on today. Okay, moving on. Moving on here. There's nothing changed, people, from day one to day end. This word people are being deceived. Let's move on. Colossians 2. We're going to read 2 verses, verse 4 and verse 8. Colossians 2, verse 4. "And this I say, lest any man should beguile you with enticing words, I mean, don't let no man deceive you or entice you or beguile you, which means trick you, fool you, with enticing words. And that's what these Sunday preachers do. They use these enticing words to beguile the people. Just like back in the garden, Eve described to the Most High that the serpent beguiled me. He tricked me. Verse 8, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. Let me read that one more time. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. That was Colossians 2, verse 8, for those keeping up. Let's go back to Matthew. Matthew 16. Matthew 16, we're going to read verse 6. We're going to skip down to verse 11 and read 11 and 12. Matthew 16, verse 6. Then Yahushua said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. So he said right here, beware of the leaven. Now this leaven, it kind of goes along back in the garden where we're talking about a fruit. Was it literal fruit or was this literal leaven? We're gonna see. Skip down to verse 11. Let me read that again. Let me read verse 6 one more time. Then Yahushua said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Verse 11. How is it that ye do not understand that I spake it not to you concerning bread, that ye should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Verse 12. Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of what? But of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees, or the so-called teachings. They were giving false teachings. All the way back here. Now let's go back to Matthew 5. We almost about to wrap this thing up. Matthew 5. Now we're going to show you where I'm going to show you where these false prophets are going to go. They keep deceiving the people. Matthew 5, verse 17. We're going to read 17 through 19. Matthew 5, verse 17. This is Hamashiach speaking again. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily, or truly, I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Now let me ask you a question. Do we still got a heaven? Do we still got an earth? Yes. So according to this, the law is still good. See, that's how you know there are two laws. You have to understand that. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of Shamayim, or heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Now you got a great in the kingdom and you got a less. Great is the kingdom, the earth, which heaven is coming down. Less is under the earth, the lake of fire. So, according to the scriptures, which the scriptures are true, if you break one of these least commandments and also teach men to break them, you will end up in the lake of fire. And we're going to show you that. Now let's go to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. We're going to read 13 through 15. 2 Corinthians 11:13. It says, "For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Hamashiach. And no marvel, for Hasatan, or Satan himself, is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers," Satan has ministers? Yes, he do. Where are they? Sunday church. "Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers, Satan's ministers, also be transformed as ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works." Let me read that again. I don't think people got that. I'm reading that one more time. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 15. "Therefore, it is no great thing if Satan's ministers also be transformed as ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works." I thought we don't get judged for our works. Okay, moving on. Now, 3 more scriptures and we're done. Let's go to Revelations 19 and 20. Three more and we're done. This page is sticking. Revelation 19, we'll read one verse here. Revelation 19, verse 20. Pay attention. "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worship his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone." A lake of what? A lake of fire. That's self-explanatory. Let's move on. Go to the next one. Revelation 20, verse 10. "And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of what? Lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever." So we see here that this lake of fire is set up for Satan and the false prophet. So if you out here teaching lies, you fall under this category. If you're teaching people to break the Sabbath, to eat pork, to eat things unclean, to be unholy, to celebrate Christmas, Easter, New Year's, all these man-made traditions, if you teaching men so and doing this, you're going to end up here, the lake of fire. Revelation 13, it's the last one. Revelation 13, we're going to read verse 11 through 18. Revelation 13, 11 through 18. Verse 11. "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men." So he's going to be doing great miracles and wonders, having people think that he's a Mashiach. "And deceiveth them," verse 14, "and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live." Now, if you get, I'm not going to get this right now, but we know who this is talking about right here. I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm going to wrap this up. Verse 15. "And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Verse 16. Watch this. Pay very close attention to verse 16. You're going to see what's going on today. And he causes all, both great and small, rich and poor, free and bond, to what? To receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Verse 18, pay attention to this. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. That's 666. So, this is the mark people are taking. And actually, and I hate to keep pounding this in the ground, but one aspect of receiving that mark is coming together as a unit and worshiping the Most High on Sunday, the day of the sun. That's part of receiving the mark. But a lot of people, being deceived out here. So I hope this was some understanding to y'all. To those that get it, I just hope it was some understanding that people get something out of it. And with that, I say shalom, peace, good night.